Good morning, County Council. I would like to call to order this council meeting of May 22nd, 2025. And at this point in time, for all those who are able, please join by standing and in the singing of O Canada.
O Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love in all of us command. With glowing hearts we see thee rise, the true north strong and free. From far and wide, O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. God keep our land glorious and free. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, could you please proceed with the roll call?
Councillor Mackey, Councillor McKay, Councillor Carlton, Councillor Pringle, Councillor McQueen, Councillor Nielsen, Councillor Patterson, Councillor Dickert, Councillor Kentner, Councillor Keaveney, Councillor Body sends his regrets today, Councillor Kepke, Councillor Gregg, Councillor Milne, Councillor Dobreen, Warden Matrosovs, Councillor Bourdignon,
Present.
Councillor Eccles, Councillor Hutchinson.
Present.
We have all members in attendance today with the exception of Councillor Body.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Let us begin by respectfully acknowledging that we are gathering on the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe Nation, the people of the Three Fires, known as the Ojibwe, Odawa, and Potawatomi nations. And further, we give thanks to the Chippewas of Saugeen and the Chippewas of Nawash, known collectively as the Saugeen Ojibwe Nation, the traditional keepers of these lands and waters since time immemorial. In the south of our county lies the traditional territories of the Six Nations of the Grand River, Haudenosaunee. We are dedicated to honoring Indigenous history and culture and committed to moving forward in the spirit of truth, reconciliation, and friendship with all First Nations, Métis, and Inuit peoples. At this point in time, I'd like to put out a call for any declarations of interest. Seeing none, then we'll proceed on to the adoption of the minutes. It's item 6A, it's recommended that the minutes of the County Council meeting and the Committee of the Whole meeting dated May 8th, 2025, and the resolutions contained therein be adopted as presented. Moved by Deputy Warden Milne, seconded by Councillor Nielsen. Any discussion? All those in favor? And that motion is carried. Item 6B, it's recommended that the closed session minutes of the Committee of the Whole meeting minutes dated May 8th, 2025 be adopted as provided. May I ask for a motion by Councillor Keaveney and seconded by Councillor Patterson. Any discussion? All those in favor? And that motion is carried. We don't have any closed meeting matters in council this morning, nor reports. That allows us to move on to the bylaws. The recommendation is that bylaw 523325 and 523525 be introduced and be taken as read a first, second, and third time, finally passed, signed by the warden of the clerk, the warden and the clerk, sealed with the seal of the corporation and engrossed in the bylaw book. Number 1, 523325, a bylaw to adopt the official plan amendment 24. 523425, a bylaw to authorize the acquisition of certain lands in the town of Hanover as described in Schedule A for an early on center, and 523525, a bylaw to confirm all actions and proceedings of the council. May I ask for a mover? Moved by Councillor Mackey, seconded by Councillor Dickert. Any discussion? All those in favor? And those are carried. News and celebrations. Well, we have a number of items coming from our CAO. CAO Schertzer, we'll start with you.
Great, thank you, Warden Matroshouse. First, I would like to welcome Niall. Niall's this is his first meeting with us. Niall Lobley, of course, is former CAO at Georgian Bluffs. This is day 3 for Niall as the county's new deputy CAO, and I couldn't be more pleased to have Niall join the senior management team. Niall brings a wealth of experience in municipal leadership, operations, and community engagement. And noted as that he was the CEO for Township of Georgian Bluffs. He has demonstrated a deep commitment to strategic planning, effective team building, and delivering high quality services to residents. In addition to Georgian Bluffs, Niall's career has included leadership roles at the City of Kitchener, as well as Conservation Halton. Niall and I will be working with each of the departments over the next few months. We'll also be touring around various county buildings and facilities to meet as many staff as possible. We've already started doing that this week, and it's been great so far. So again, just welcome Niall to the Grey County team. And so I have a few more good news and celebrations. So there's 2 celebratory weeks happening this week. First is the National Public Works Week. This week is, with that, I just want to take a moment just to recognize the incredible work of our Grey County Transportation Services staff. Every day they keep our communities connected, maintaining over 880 kilometers of roads, 192 bridges. It's not easy work. But they do it with such dedication, professionalism, and pride. Whether it's snow removal, like we had with this past winter, emergency road repairs after a storm, or planning and designing infrastructure improvements, their efforts keep Grey County safe, accessible, and moving forward. They are truly the backbone of our community, and they may not always be in the spotlight, but their impact is felt by every resident and visitor who travels our roads. So thank you, Pat, and your transportation services team for your commitment and your hard work and your service. We truly appreciate it. This week is also Paramedic Services Week, and the theme this year is We Care for Everyone. And Niall and I were fortunate enough to join Chief McNabb and his paramedic services staff yesterday to help celebrate Paramedic Services Week, and to see a number of our paramedic services accept awards, including some receiving 15, 20, 30, and even 40-year service awards, which is just absolutely incredible. Whether responding to emergencies at a moment's notice or providing proactive care throughout the community paramedicine program, the work that our paramedics perform saves lives and improves the well-being of our residents every single day. Our paramedics bring not only skill and professionalism, but also compassion and calm during some of life's most challenging moments. So again, thank you, Chief McNabb and your paramedic services team, for your tireless services, as well as your unwavering commitment to community care. Truly appreciate it. Today, our Provincial Offences Court team is also hosting students from across our region. So you may have seen some students actually out in the hall this morning, and they're taking part in some mock court trials. And these mock trials are being held by the Ontario Bar Association in partnership with the Ontario Justice Education Network. And there's a network of competitions of students across the province that are happening. And so we're lucky enough to be able to host one of those sites today. So there's 3 area schools competing this year, being St. Mary's, Grey Highlands, and Saugeen District. So there's 2 mock court cases that are happening as we speak, and each student will play a role in those mock trials. So students are able to work with lawyers from the area also to help prepare for these trials, and there's actual judges that will be judging the cases as well. So I want to thank Amanda Kokas and her POA team for hosting these mock trials. And if you get a chance after today's council meeting, feel free to pop by and and peek in and see how the mock trials are going. So thanks for Min and her team for hosting those. That's all I have at the moment.
Well, that's not all. That's quite significant news that you have. All right. So perhaps then I'll move on to, let me open it to the floor first for all of the county council news and celebrations to share. I would like to spend a little bit of time just sharing a little bit of news from the Great Lakes and St. Lawrence Cities Initiative Conference, which I attended last week. So I'll wait to the end of that and put it out there if there are news and celebrations from our county council colleagues. We'll begin with Councillor Keaveney.
Thank you very much, Warden Matrosovs, and good morning, everyone. And that's a great segue because I wanted to congratulate you on your recent appointment to the Board of Directors at the conference in Milwaukee to the Great Lakes St. Lawrence Cities Initiative. So congratulations to you. I know you will bring a very strong voice to that board representing our community. And I had another announcement, if I may, Warden. On behalf of the municipality of Meaford, we're really excited that on June the 14th, we're going to have a ribbon cutting ceremony at our new bridge. And you've all heard me talk about bridges 21 and 22. Well, the project is now completed, and we would invite anybody who wishes to attend to join us on the 14th of June. And it's just an opportunity to see sort of an alternative type of bridge construction that's worked out really, really well. Thank you.
Thank you. And with that, we'll go to Councillor Dickert next.
Thank you, Warden Matrosovs. I just wanted to recognize and congratulate the Hanover Barons on winning the Schmaltz Cup this year. Second time that they've been able to do that in the club history, and it truly is a team made up from across the area. So it's not just a Hanover team, but they've made us proud. And we will have a hockey celebration day on May 31st to recognize that achievement. And for Deputy Warden Milne, just want to say this is what happens if you get past round 2. So thank you.
Thank you. I'll on that note, we'll move over to Councillor Carlton, if you'd like to step in before the deputy warden has something to say.
Thank you, Warden Matrosovs. I actually have 2 this morning. On May 31st, Georgian Bluffs is hosting a planting bee at the municipal office, and that's from 9 to 1. There will be lunch provided for anybody that wants to register and come out and help with creating a pollinator garden and all that encompasses. And this summer at Shallow Lake Community Center, because the Bayshore Community Center in Owen Sound is undergoing renovations, the Owen Sound Attack will be playing out of Shallow Lake. So that will be starting through late August and early September. And there's going to be early morning practices to evening training sessions, and the Attack will be using our ice dressing rooms and meeting spaces as they prepare for the 2025-2026 OHL season. And there's going to be some preseason camps that are open to the public, and we encourage everybody to come out and join. And I should have added on the planting bee, we're also doing the pride flag raising ceremony that day as well. That's it.
Thank you. And looking on the screen, looking around the room, we'll go to Councillor McQueen next.
Thank you, Madam Warden. I guess my question is, what are you planting? You don't need to say. Thank you, Madam Warden and County Council. I just want to remind everybody that this weekend is the Ram Rodeo in Beersham, Saturday and Sunday, the 24th, 25th. Please pray for sunshine. We need it. And again, just a reminder, we've made $150,000 in the last 4 years toward the Markdale Hospital Foundation. And also on June 11th, we have an age-friendly Grey Highlands Senior Health Fair at the Kimplex on June 11th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. So if I can leave these with you, just to remind everybody about that. Now I see there's a golf tournament here. This is the works. We're going to talk about that, right? So anyway, I just if you're able to come out and enjoy yourself. If you buy your tickets online for the rodeo, you can save $10. So, and then there's going to be an evening event and cowboy breakfast as well. The Kinsmen are also involved with that as well. So I know Mr. Eccles is going to be busy on the Friday night. I think it is with the lobster fest. Saturday night. Okay, so maybe in between that you can slip over too. So thank you.
Thank you very much. And I'll look around then for other news. And we'll go to Councillor Nielsen.
Thank you very much, Warden Matrosov. Like yourself, I had the privilege of attending an outside conference. Yesterday, Tuesday and Wednesday, I was attending the Canada Vote Summit in Montreal. It's put on by the Democratic Exchange. And it was bringing kind of democracy in general, not just municipal, like the AMO Healthy Democracy Program. But there was conversations around USAID's lack of funding towards democracy projects and how Canada can step up in that space. There was the mayor, France from Gatineau, Quebec, who had resigned during this term of council. There's discussions that over 800 municipal leaders have resigned in the province of Quebec this term of council alone, showcasing kind of the challenges that Democratic and municipal leaders are facing across the board, be it incivility and challenges of cohesion at the council table. It was, again, kind of remarkable to hear all the kind of conversations that were happening. And I'm hoping to share with some of my colleagues today over lunch some of the interesting things I learned and was discussed. So just wanted to share that.
Thank you very much. And indeed, a number of our members of the Great Lakes Initiative were not at the AGM because of the meetings that they were having in the province. So I'm so glad that you're there finding out more about what's happening right across beyond our Ontario boundaries. Thank you. And any other news and celebrations? Okay, well then I'll just try to keep it concise. There are 4 resolutions that I just wanted to briefly highlight that were the result of the Great Lakes and St. Lawrence Cities Initiative AGM and meeting, which happened in Milwaukee last week. So each year there's a rotation where it's always in Ontario, then in Quebec, and then into the States. So long before the changes that happened in the White House, this conference was planned for Milwaukee. Next year it will be in Hamilton. It will be much closer. So that's good news for all of our Ontario members. But it was crucial to be there. I can think very carefully about the relief that our counterparts, our American mayors and First Nations tribal leaders acknowledged that we had come across the border to speak in unity with them and to be able to talk about how the impacts are, how the tariffs are impacting us on both sides. They are on the same page as us. They are struggling like we are, and they are grateful that we have these multinational organizations to continue to advocate. And that's why it was so important that our voice was there. And I must say, it did move me to be standing and singing "O Canada" in Milwaukee. So with that, there were some key resolutions that came from the business that we did, the work that we did. One of them was advancing the Great Lakes and St. Lawrence strong response to the US-Canada trade war. And we did declare we are now 325 members. So a few years ago it was under 100, and now it's 325 members. We now have shifted our terminology from binational to multinational because we recognize the First Nations on the Canadian side and the tribal nations on the American side that have been joining us as well. And so it's very key that when we speak in Washington and when we speak in Ottawa, they are listening, because we are representing 84% of the freshwater of all of North America when we are talking about the Great Lakes and St. Lawrence Basin. So how crucial that is to all of our communities and our countries. So we did identify that we do oppose the U.S. blanket tariffs and stand with the affected communities, businesses, First Nations, and tribes, and that we urge our states and our provincial governments to take swift action to protect jobs and regional trade, and that we look to our federal governments in both countries to offer relief measures to affected communities and economies, and that we should continue to collaborate as we have been doing for over 20 years in order to have a consolidated single voice in response to these stresses that all of our communities are facing. We also reaffirm the support for the Great Lakes Water Quality Agreement. This is an agreement that we've had, so we wanted to reaffirm that we support that and its roles in the transboundary water management. And that the Canada and U.S. federal government should remain committed to this agreement and uphold its binational governance framework, and that both countries should continue to collaborative efforts to restore the water quality and address legacy pollution, new contaminants, and climate impacts. And that's certainly one of the reasons why the initiative was first created, is, as we always say, the fish have no passports. So what happens in those waters, it doesn't recognize that boundary that's drawn between the two of us. And a third one is in relation to that is also the Great Lakes Compact, that we wanted to make sure that we reaffirm that we uphold that Great Lakes Compact. So we reaffirm our full support for the agreement and compact, especially on the ban of out of basin diversions, because that has been the topic of conversation to the south of the border. And we want to make sure that we are maintaining a loud, clear, unified voice on the impact that that would create for our Great Lakes. And that we urge our governors of the 8 Great Lakes and states and the premiers of Ontario and Quebec to uphold and implement these agreements, and that we will stand there beside them in order to do that, and that the city's initiatives and members will promote sustainable water use through our action plans. And the final one, there were a number of them, but the final one that I did also want to highlight, which overlaps into the commission, the Mayor's Commission on water equity. It's now been renamed Water Access, although equity is still a big part of it, but we've expanded it to really fully encompass the needs of our infrastructure for our communities across our nations. But in addition to that, we have now resolved that we will create a committee on First Nation and tribal engagement to identify joint priorities and foster collaboration. And it's not just a committee on First Nation and tribal engagement, it's with its members. Its membership will be our chiefs from both sides of the border. So that's a very key input in terms of what we look at in terms of water access, to make sure that each and every one of our communities, our own municipalities, and what the communities that the chiefs look after have that equal access to infrastructure funding to make sure that we all have access to water. And with that, I can say thank you very much, Councillor Keaveney, for recognizing the shift in my role. And so I have already been doing some leadership roles within Ontario, but now I will take on I will be one of 20 members on the board. And I can tell you that our nearest board neighbor is actually Chief Linda Dubosque of Manitoulin Island, who is on the board as well. And her communities represent 65,000 people right across 11 different First Nations. So we're there. And also Georgian Bay is also well represented on the other side too, because one of the other board members is Reeve Leverance of the Archipelago. So we are present. Georgian Bay is present, and we are 20 members representing right across Canada and the States to represent the 325 members growing. And in addition to the AGM next year in Hamilton, in November, there'll be one closer in Halton, which will be a similar regional day to the one that many of you attended when I hosted one over at the town of Blue Mountains. So there's lots of good reasons to find out more about what we do and to stay active in between these AGM meetings. Okay, so with that then, I'll just look for a motion to adjourn. Got it by Councillor DeBreen and seconded by Councillor Nielsen. All those in favor? And that motion is carried. We'll just take a moment to switch to Committee of the Whole. Thank you very much. So I'd now like to call to order this Committee of the Whole meeting of May 22nd, 2025. At this point in time on this agenda, I'll put out a call for any declarations of interest. Okay, seeing none, we'll proceed to business. We don't have business, no business arising from the minutes. Okay, so we have a delegation. We have Mr. DeMelo of Kagan, Shastri, and DeMelo, Weiner, Park Lawyers. Well, that's a long one. With regards to PDR CW 2825, known as Thornbury Acres County Official Plan Amendment 25 Final Report. Okay, and there he is online. So welcome, Mr. DeMelo, and you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Warden, members of council. First of all, I'll take back the note that the name is quite long and it's a mouthful. We usually just shorten it, but I appreciate that. With regards to delegation, I advised that my role was really to be here today to answer any questions. I'm counsel for Thornbury Acres in connection with this matter, and I had provided a correspondence to members of the Committee of Whole and Council indicating that we are in support of the staff recommendation report and appreciate the work that county staff has done to move this matter forward. This is part of an overall application that council will be aware of, that our client is brought forward a private application for a residential farm cooperative. and that this is an official plan amendment that in our view is a very technical one that allows for the special agricultural component of the lands that are designated special agricultural to continue to be used for agriculture as part of the residential farm cooperative. It won't change the use on the subject lands that are special agricultural. They'll continue to be used for agricultural lands as part of the overall development, but it's a technical amendment that allows them to be brought in. So I'm here to indicate support, and I'm also here to answer any questions that may arise and that any members of council may have. And once again, would thank staff and would thank council for the opportunity.
Okay, so I'll see if there are any questions. And I'm not seeing any. Oh, yes, I have one here online. We'll go to Councillor Bordignon.
Thank you, Madam Warden, and good morning, County Council. Through the warden to the deputant, what are the plans for the actual operations of the farm cooperative? I'm still a little gray on that area.
Through you, Madam Warden, to the member of Councillor Borden. The farm will be managed by a professional farm cooperative. All of the residents who will be unit holders within the farm cooperative are also required to be operators within the farm. It'll be a collective farm that is operated on the subject lands. The residential component of the residential farm cooperative has been designed in such a way that it integrates with the farm. It keeps the special agricultural lands separate so that they can continue to be farmed. It adds additional agricultural lands for the farming operation. The operation is as the OP definition of a residential farm cooperative provides, that it is a cooperatively held farm. So it's not individual lots or individual plots of a farm that are used. So it's not like a garden plot. It's an overall large operating single farm, but it's going to be operated and managed by all of the owners. All of the owners who are going to be in the complex will be active in the participation of the farm, and there will be a professional farm manager that we're trained to make sure that the farm operations are consistent with best agricultural practices.
If I could just have a follow-up. Thank you, Madam Warden. So it's so people buying $3 to $5 million houses are going to be doing farming. And is that that's first question I have. And the second question is that in the deed? Is that deeded if people move forward on, they're required to do farming?
Through you, Madam Warden, to the council, those are going to be the details that are provided in the plan of condominium, because this is going to operate by way of plan of condominium. So there will be the contributions, there will be the requirements to uptake the farm, there will be active participation in the farm. Some members, of course, will be more active than others in terms of participation, but all of it is associated with the farm operation.
Is there any further follow-up, Councillor Bordignon?
Thank you, Madam Warden. No.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Okay, and I confirm I don't see any further hands online nor here in the chamber. So thank you very much, Mr. DeMelo. And we will continue with our next item. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so next we'll move on to item 5, which is determination of items requiring separate discussion. And there are 5 different items listed on the consent agenda today. So I'll put out a call to ask if anybody would like any of the items in 6 pulled, 6A through E. Okay, just give a moment for people to check their notes. Not seeing any hands so far. Okay, Madam Clerk, I'm not seeing any hands. So therefore, I'll put out that it is recommended that the following consent items be received and that staff be authorized to take action necessary to give effect to the recommendations in the staff reports, and that the correspondence be supported or received for information as recommended in the consent agenda. May I ask for a mover? Moved by Councillor Dobreen, seconded by Councillor Gregg. On the floor for discussion. Seeing no discussion, I'll ask all those in favor. And that motion is carried. Thank you. Flip through then to section 7. And items for discussion. So the first one we have, we'll be looking to Director Spicer for this one. So I'll just get it on the floor first. The recommendation is that County of Grey budget and Finance Committee meeting minutes dated May 13th, 2025 be adopted as presented, and the following resolution be contained therein be endorsed. That report FRBFC 0925 titled County of Grey 2024 Audit Services, Service Plan Report to the members of council dated April 10th, prepared by MNP LLP, Chartered Professional Accountants be received for information. May I ask for a mover? Okay, so it's moved by Councillor Dickert and it's seconded by Councillor Pringle. So it's now on the floor for discussion. Good morning, Director Spicer.
Thank you, Madam Warden. At our meeting, I'll start with a little preamble. So at the February 20th meeting, staff sought input from the committee regarding the 10-year capital process. And committee members advised that they'd like a clearer understanding of the decision-making process that would support more informed decisions and spending justifications. So based on that, Kim and I asked departments that would be making capital presentations to the committee to include things like an overview of their capital assets, what criteria they use to determine the need for a capital investment. So whether that's using asset management plan obligations, level of service, criteria, condition indexes, links to other capital projects, et cetera, what sources of funding they have, how are projects tracked or prioritized over the 10-year plan, is there a software used and what is the methodology? Is there current investment shortfall or any big investments coming in the near future? And how do they calculate their cost estimates in years 1 to 5 and 6 to 10, which acknowledges the further out a project is, the less refined is the cost. And thanks to Pat and his team, Transportation Services volunteered to be the first department to present to the committee. Sean Anthony, who is the operations manager, he presented, discussed a number of things, including the types and quantity and machinery of their fleet, where their facilities are and how many, their staffing, talked about the fleet manual that was prepared in 2022. It was attached to the agenda for the meeting for reference. There was recommendations that were discussed from the study with a good discussion on electric vehicles. Committee was provided an overview of how equipment is funded, which is through the sale of equipment and charge out rates based on usage, and how the budget is calculated, which is using most recent purchases and 2% inflation. Also discussed transfers to reserve balances, how they use the building condition assessments for depots, and they have dome inspections that are conducted using a firm that specializes in that type of unique structure. And we also discussed the transfer to reserve and the anticipated reserve balance for at the end of the year. Then we moved on to Trevor, the engineering manager. So he presented an overview of the capital engineering budget. So based on the 2023 AMP, committee heard that the replacement value of roads, structures, and stormwater is almost $1.9 billion. And he talked about the tools that they use, including IRIS, which is the ability to drive around and do the assessment on roads, using the software, pavement condition indexes, talked about geometrics of roads, what adjustments might be done when work is done, how traffic volumes and the type of traffic influence project prioritization and pavement performance. Talked about funding sources, which are DCs, grants, reserves, and levy, and that projections include a 2% annual inflation increase and a 2.55 asset management plan increase. And just as a note that in our budget, we allocate the full asset management plan to the transportation budget because the bulk of our assets are infrastructure. They discussed structures, which provided that the average replacement cost per structure is $2.3 million. Trevor also discussed how the budget is determined. So they take a 2% inflation to the previous year's levy and add the asset management plan increase. 10-year capital, we talked about years 1 and 2 cost estimates are based on designs that staff have prepared, consultant cost estimates, using average pricing from previous year's contracts, adjusted for quantities. Years 3 to 5 is using a cost per kilometer adjusted annually based on construction costs. Years 6 to 10 use the same math methodology as years 3 and 5. Projects are identified based on projected condition and adjusted annually. We also discussed PCI as well as what preventative work can be done in order to maximize the lifespan of roads. And then the last part of the agenda was a staff report that had the 2024 MNP audit service plan attached. So our manager of accounting, Garrett Reed, presented the report. And it was noted that the document from MNP, which is the auditor's mechanism to communicate with council, was later than normal. And that's, of course, because of the change from the local office being BDO office to MNP. Our field work was finished in late April, and the audited financial statements are expected to be presented at the June 25th Budget and Finance Committee. And also scheduled for that meeting are a few other reports, including departmental presentations by IT, planning, and paramedic services.
Okay, thank you very much for that introduction. So with that, then we'll put it out to committee of the whole members if they have questions or comments. Okay, I'm not seeing any hands go up. All right, then it has been moved and seconded. If there is no further discussion, then I'll call the question then. All those in favor? And that motion is carried. Thank you. Thank you, Director Spicer. Next, we'll look to Director Taylor, who is going to be online with us this morning. So I'll read out the recommended motion. That report for item 7B, that report PDR CW 2825 be received, and that all written and oral submissions on the official plan amendment number 25 were considered and helped to make an informed recommendation and decision, and that proposed county official plan amendment number 25 to permit the redesignation of lands designated rural, special agricultural, and hazard lands to rural, special agricultural with exceptions, and hazard lands designations on lands legally described as part of Lot 27, Concession 8 in the geographic township of Collingwood, now in the town of Blue Mountains, be supported, and a bylaw to adopt the county official plan amendment be prepared for consideration by county council. May I ask for a mover and a seconder? Moved by Councillor Keaveney, seconded by Councillor Eccles. It's now on the floor for discussion. Good morning, Director Taylor.
Thank you, Madam Warning, and good morning to you and members of council here this morning. I am just going to share my screen here because I have a brief presentation. I apologize I couldn't be there with you in person, but we still have lots of good planning content for you to consider today. So Madam Warden, could you just confirm that you can see the presentation that's up on the screen there now?
We can. Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you so much. Okay, so I think council is well aware of the Thornbury Acres development. So I'm just going to take you through a very brief recap just for those that might be tuning in today that might not be as familiar with the development as council, and also explain the relationship of official plan amendment number 25 to the rest of the development. So what you see on the screen there, that is the subject lands highlighted in red. They are at the southeast corner of the intersection of Grey Road 40 and Grey Road 2. The lands are approximately 61 hectares in size. And I would just draw your attention to sort of the cleared lands in the northeast corner. And those will be the lands that are most directly subject to official plan amendment number 25. The subject lands are sort of southeast of Thornbury and west of the Georgian Bay Club golf course and development in that regard. So with respect to official plan amendment number 25, it is a site-specific amendment to consider an exception to the county's special agricultural lands, as Mr. DeMello told us about. Within this exception, it would allow the lands to be used in concert with a residential farm cooperative, but the special agricultural lands, which are about 9.8 hectares in the northeast of the development, cannot be used for either residential development and or for any of the associated infrastructure with the proposed residential farm cooperative, including any stormwater management ponds in that regard. Council will be aware, as Mr. DeMello noted, I believe, that there are some other applications associated with this development, including a plan of condominium application, a zoning bylaw amendment application, and a town official plan amendment application, and those are all currently before the Ontario Land Tribunal. So this proposed development has evolved over time, and more recently there's been some significant changes to development, including a reduction in the number of residential units proposed. Previously there was 37 units, now there are 31 units. Some of the proposed residential units have been shifted to the west of the development to allow for more lands to be preserved for farm and forestry uses. There's been a removal of a proposed stormwater management pond in the special agricultural lands in the northeast of the development. And there's further been a reduction in the overall number of entrances for the proposed condominium roads onto our county roads in that regard. And so what you see before you there is the current official plan designations for the property. What you're seeing in white there is the rural designation, and what you're seeing in sort of hatched orange and red in the northeast of the development is the approximate 9.8 hectares of special agricultural lands. With respect to the proposed development, what you see before you is the previous plan of condominium that was proposed. What you'll note is there are the 37 units here. What's not shown on this plan is that previously there was going to be a proposed stormwater management pond in the northeast of the development. You'll see that there are some of the units proposed in the southeast of the development, and that's important to note because that's one of the things that shifted through the new plan. You also note in the original proposal there was a proposed entrance onto Grey Road 2 for our condominium road and a further proposed entrance onto Grey Road 40 for our condominium road. What you see before you now is the current revised proposal that the developer is seeking approval on in front of the Ontario Land Tribunal. So as I mentioned, now you no longer have the residential units proposed in the southeast of the development. You have the residential units are pushed further west. There are 31 units now as opposed to the proposed 37 units. They've eliminated the entrance onto Grey Road 2 and have a single access onto Grey Road 40 for the proposed condominium road. And as stated earlier, there's no proposed stormwater management facility. And furthermore, the proposed official plan amendment, if approved, would restrict both any residential and or stormwater management development in the special agricultural lands, which are in the northeast of the development. So with respect to some additional background, we are here today to talk about the official plan amendment number 25, and that's what we're limiting our discussion here today. But I did want to note that the other three applications, the condominium, the zoning amendment, and the town official plan amendment, are all scheduled to go to a 2-week Ontario Land Tribunal hearing to commence on July the 7th. The town of Blue Mountains remains concerned with this proposed development, including the revisions which took it to the 31-unit proposal. Council may recall that they recently approved official plan amendment number 23, which updated the county's rural policies, including both the permitted uses and the development criteria. So OPA 23 changed a number of these policies and uses, but I need to be 100% clear that official plan amendment number 23 does not apply to the Thornbury Acres development. The Thornbury Acres development preceded the county's commencement of official plan amendment number 23. As such, it's treated under the old policy. And furthermore, there's a site-specific exception in official plan amendment number 23, which clarified that the Thornbury Acres development is under the old policy. This is important because the county official plan, as it read prior to official plan amendment number 23, had some different wording in it, including not defining residential farm cooperatives as a defined term. And that's something that's been amended through official plan amendment number 23 in that regard. With respect to the comments we heard on official plan amendment number 25, which is the site-specific Thornbury Acres development, I would note that the majority of these comments were received prior to the new 31-unit proposal being presented. So some of these comments would have been relating to the former 37-unit proposal. The county did hear a mix of comments on this. Some of the agency comments simply noted that they had no further concerns. Some of the comments we received were more pertinent to the plan of condominium application rather than the site-specific details of the special agricultural exception proposed through official plan amendment number 25. There were, however, some concerns with respect to the number of residential units and the scale of development being proposed. There were concerns about the loss of both farmland and forested land on site. There was concern over whether or not the amount of housing being proposed was commensurate with the proposed farm production on site. There was comments received with respect to whether or not the county official plan policies had been fully addressed. And there was further concerns about whether or not this type of development would be precedent setting in that regard, and or whether this development would have impacts on neighbors, including neighboring farms. I will note that the developer's planner did provide a response matrix to these comments, and that has been linked to in the report and shared on the county's website. Those that submitted comments were also made aware that this report was being brought forward at today's Committee of the Whole meeting. With respect to official plan amendment number 25 itself, as I noted, it does only apply to the special agricultural lands in the northeast corner of the development. The provincial planning statement 2024 continues to reiterate the province's goals of providing protections to specialty crop lands, which is the provincial term for what we call our special agricultural lands. I would note that although OPA 25 is considering site-specific wording to the special agricultural lands, it would not weaken the protection of those lands, and it would further reinforce that residential lot and unit creation isn't permitted on those lands, and neither is the stormwater infrastructure in that regard. As I noted earlier, in the county official plan, pre-official plan amendment number 23, residential farm cooperative was not a defined term. Residential farm cooperatives are only permitted in the rural designation, and there is a policy in the rural designation that requires a minimum of 60% of the original land holding to remain available for active primary agricultural or recreational use. Official plan amendment number 25, if approved, again, would not allow any of those residential uses on the special agricultural lands, but what it would allow the developer to do would be to consider the special agricultural lands in concert with the rural lands as part of their calculation for the total 61 hectare site in terms of meeting that 60% calculation that I just specified above. The county official plan continues to direct most of our residential growth to our settlement areas, where we have both our services and our amenities in that regard. And council has reaffirmed their commitment to directing our growth to settlement areas through the policies that were put in place in official plan amendment number 23. I will say that the Thornbury Acres development has been challenging. Staff remain conflicted about this development. Certainly, we would note that there were some improvements made through the changes in terms of reducing the total number of residential units, allowing for greater percentages or greater amounts of the lands to be used for farm or forestry purposes. But we do still remain conflicted there. There was a public comment with respect to whether or not a positive decision on OPA 25 would be precedent setting. And certainly council's heard staff say this before, but each amendment or each planning application is always tested based on its own merits and based on the legislative and policy framework that's in place at the time that we're considering that policy application. So it's not necessarily precedent setting, but certainly people could look at past decisions of council and ask questions in that regard. Staff still do have concerns with the number of residential units proposed through the overall development, but would note that that's not directly pertinent to the official plan amendment number 25 in this regard. And then furthermore, based on the direction that was provided by County Council on May 8th, there is merit in supporting official plan amendment number 25 as a site-specific amendment. And so with that, the warden read out the recommendation at the beginning, but basically the recommendation is that the report be received. Certainly, we thank all those that submitted comments on this application, both members of the public and agencies, and that the bylaw be prepared for the June 12th County Council session. And with that, I'm going to stop sharing my screens and certainly happy to take any questions if council has any questions in that regard.
Thank you, Director Taylor. And we'll begin with Councillor Bourdignon online.
Thank you, Madam Warden, and again to County Council. To Scott, I appreciate your comments on being conflicted. This is not sitting well within the TBM, which resides in Grey County. I know we sit with our Grey County hats on, but this is not good for anybody in Grey County. Hence, the reason why OPA 23 was introduced. So even though a loophole was found, and now it won't happen in the future, that doesn't really help this development. So I have a couple questions for you. in that would not, and I know it's been discussed many times and through many reports, but by the sheer fact that we had to pass OPA 23, does that not lend any defense to saying, okay, you found a loophole, but we've closed that now because it's not a good idea? Does that not lend any merit to the negative of, I'm sorry, to the defense of this development not proceeding?
Thank you for your question, Councillor Bourdignon, through the warden. I'll just have to be careful in my response here, and perhaps I should have said this to council at the beginning. We just need to make sure that what we're discussing today is directly pertinent to OPA 25, and we're not getting into any of the existing applications. With respect to official plan amendment number 23, certainly the county official plan was passed in official plan in 2019, sorry. And as staff got to working with the policies and as we started to see development applications come in, there were some interpretation issues with the county official plan, not just in any way as they relate to Thornbury Acres, but some of the rural uses in general. And so we sought to clarify that through official plan amendment number 23, and staff believe that we do have clearer policies in that regard. That said, the Thornbury Acres development preceded those policies and preceded the passing of OPA 23. So in terms of what County Council is considering and what ultimately may be considered through the other applications in front of the Ontario Land Tribunal, it is the county official plan as it read prior to the passing of OPA 23. And so while it's a signal of council's intent in that regard and staff's direction to clarify those policies, it isn't directly pertinent in my planning opinion to official plan amendment number 25 in that regard.
Thank you for that.
Okay.
May I have a follow-up, Madam Warden?
Yes.
Thank you. And then in regards to, I know one of the major concessions was 37 to 31 houses. Has the footprint of those in the 31 larger than the models that were proposed in 37? Because looking at the site plan to myself, it would seem that we're just building bigger houses for a larger dollar value as opposed to there may be less density, but the houses may be a larger footprint. Do you have any comment on that?
Through you, Madam Warden, we're starting to stray a little bit from official plan amendment number 25. I will say in general, the units have been compacted into the western portion of the site, and what's being proposed right now is the unit boundary. So it is proposed through a vacant land plan of condominium. So we don't actually know how large those future homes may be in that regard. That would be to a certain extent up to the future buyers if this development were approved as to the size of the home. What we do know through the proposed revisions to the vacant land plan of condominium is how large those I'd like to say lots, but they're technically units would be in that regard. And I will say for council that generally speaking, when we're looking at lots or units in the rural area, the size of the lots or units need to be a little bit larger anyway to support the private wells and septics being proposed. But at this stage, we don't have any firm indication of what size the future homes would be on those lots or units, sorry.
Thank you. May I have one more question, Madam Warden? And I'll stay within the report. I don't want to put Mr. Taylor in a bad position.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And it's in the report that surrounding land use includes agriculture, cannabis growing facility, residential uses, golf course, and space extensive commercial industrial uses for the surrounding land. In regards to the cannabis growing facility, has the proponent the OPA 25 will allow the residential to go in where it wouldn't have been before. Is there, with the cannabis growing facility, there is sometimes odor or things like that coming from it. Is that something that the county or the town would be protected from if if this OPA 25 goes through and this is built, that they would be able to come back and say, well, we're not happy with that? How does this affect the surrounding areas, I guess would be the question to keep within the report.
Through you, Madam Warden. So the proponents team has conducted studies to look at whether or not there'd be any nuisance between the cannabis growing facility to the south and the proposed residential units in the vacant land plan condominium, which would be to the north of that cannabis growing facility. And so when you're looking at those, you look at things like odor, but also noise and light in that regard. And so those studies have been submitted. And those will be matters that the tribunal would be considering as part of their decision on the Thornbury Acres applications. And if there were to be a decision in the affirmative to approve those applications, there could be in the future draft plan conditions or site-specific zoning that implements the recommendations of those studies in that regard. But OPA 25, strictly speaking, doesn't directly relate to the cannabis facility because it's just looking at the exception on the special agricultural lands in the northeast in that regard. But I hope that helps clarify, Councillor Bourdignon.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for the indulgence, Madam Warden.
Okay, thank you. And I'll just look to the room to see if there are any hands. Yes, we'll go to the Deputy Warden Milne.
Thank you, Madam Warden. And thank you, Scott, for your comments. I guess with tongue firmly in cheek, I would say these latent farmers, I would hope, would not object to any normal farm practices because of the nature of being allowed to build their houses through OPA 25. So if the neighboring farmer decided to build a 3,000 head hog barn, I'm sure they'd be thrilled to see agriculture right on their doorstep. And if you'll, Madam Warden, if you'll allow me, it does bother me a little bit to call these homes farmers. It's disgraceful or disrespectful to the many real farmers in this county and across the province. And these people that are going to build these homes to call themselves farmers on a cooperative farm is absolute lunacy. And I commend actually Mr. DeMello, his ability to keep a straight face while he's giving his answers to the questions earlier. So with that,
Thank you, Deputy Warden. Are there other comments? Yes, Councillor Eccles.
Just a quick comment on page 3 of the report, halfway down, it gives a description of the property at the southeast corner of the intersection of Gray Road 2 and Gray Road 4. I know we've been talking about changing.
My apologies, Councillor Eccles. I didn't mean to hit the button that early, but yes, that is a typo. It is County Road 40. Drive it on a regular basis. Yeah. Okay, any other questions? And unless, sorry, Councillor Eccles, was there anything else or was it just that? Okay, my apologies. Councillor Dobreen.
Thank you, through you, and good morning. With regard to specialty crop, I looked up the definition, and it could include trees, apple trees, grapes, tomatoes. As an active, it's supposed to be an active farm where the residents are actively participating, could just be voting to harvest, or we don't know what active participation actually entails. But in looking at the map, to keeping with the OPA 25, where is the farm entrance? If this is going to be actively farmed, where will the structures be located that would be associated with normal farm practice? And where will those farm equipment in order to access the farm be located? Because we've reduced the entrance to the residential development, but I don't see a farm entrance associated with the active farm. Thank you.
Director Taylor?
So through you, Madam Warden, thank you for your question, Councillor DeBreen. What you saw on the proposed plan in my staff report and in the presentation was simply the proposed condominium plan, which shows the condominium roads. I'm just seeing if I can find the concept plan, but basically there is a proposed entrance off of Gray Road 40, and I apologize, Councillor Eccles, for calling that Gray Road 4, which would be, roughly most of the way to the east of the property, which would allow for that farm access, and if they were to have a farmer's market or something else there, it would allow for those types of access. So what you're seeing on the plan is the condominium road, but there is further a plan that would show the farm access, if you will. But I apologize, I don't have that for you today.
Go ahead, please.
Thank you. And through you to Mr. Taylor, you mentioned a farmer's market. Will this specialty agricultural area then become parking or potentially become parking to accommodate a farmer's market? I guess I'm just trying to get my head around what special agriculture could entail. And my second question originally was, if this is going to be an active farm practice, there is no indication that there would be any structures to, a drive shed or storage.
Sorry, through you, Madam Warden. So what you're seeing, it's a good question. Thank you, Councillor DeBreen. What you're seeing is the proposed plan, a condominium plan, and we've had some talk about the permitted uses. But essentially through the county official plan, all the permitted uses that are currently permitted in special ag, so that includes, the growing crops, the raising of livestock, the ability to build farm buildings and such, would all continue to be permitted through this development application. And so in some of their original submission materials, the developer had proposed, some types of uses that might be considered on these lands, including the types of farming that might be considered. But at the end of the day, that would be narrowed down if it gets approved as to whether or not they needed any barns or equipment buildings, or the exact type of agricultural production that would be on site. So neither the county plan nor the implementing town zoning bylaw amendment would weigh in too heavily there beyond it's likely to include the full suite of uses that would otherwise be permitted in the special agricultural designation or similar zone, or the rural designation or zones in that regard. So again, that includes both farming, but it also includes on-farm diversified uses or agricultural related uses. And that's something that was also made clear in official plan amendment number 23, is that alongside uses like agrominiums or residential farm cooperatives, you could have those other supportive agricultural uses like ag-related uses or on-farm diversified uses.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Look all around the room for if there are other questions. Yes, we'll go to Councillor Carleton.
Thank you, Warden Mattersoves. When I look at this layout, what occurs to me is there a future possibility for this condominium group to decide they don't want that special agricultural land and to vote to sell that off, and it's no longer part of this farming cooperative?
Director Taylor?
It's a good question, Councillor Carleton. Through you, Madam Warden. The developer has proposed, and through their legal representation, has proposed a series of tools that they believe will ensure that the lands both remain protected for farming and remain farmed in that regard. County staff have had some concerns with some of those protection models in the past. And again, we're straying a little bit through the discussion on official plan amendment number 25 as to whether or not we should consider this exception or not. But they have proposed tools that they recommend through the plan of condominium that, in their opinion, would guarantee these lands be used for farming in that regard. Should there ever be any further proposed subdivision of these lands, that would of course have to come back through the town of Blue Mountains if it was via consent application, or through the county if it was via further uses like a plan of condominium or plan of subdivision in that regard.
Any follow-up, Councillor Carleton? Okay, thank you. Any other questions? No. Comments? No, not seeing anything further in the room, not seeing anything further online. So I'll call the question now. All those in favor? Could you just keep your hands raised for a moment? Thank you. Okay, so I'm counting that as passed. Thank you. Okay, next we'll move on to, we will go on to 7C. So that is, Director Taylor, you've got a break for a moment there because we're going to go over to the clerk for this one. So it's recommended that report CCR-CW 0625 regarding appointments to the Joint Municipal Services Committee be received, and that the following members be appointed to the committee. And with that, I'll leave the list of names to Madam Clerk. Well, Madam Clerk, do you want to go through the names first before I look for the mover and the seconder?
Thank you and good morning, everyone. This report here before you today seeks members to be appointed to the Joint Municipal Services Committee. The terms of reference were adopted by council in April, and note that the committee will consist of 5 members of county council. There have been a number of councillors that have expressed interest in sitting on this committee. We have 7 members to date that have noted they'd like to sit on it, and we have 5 spots available. Those councillors are Councillors Hutchinson, Dickert, Pringle, Body, Dobreen, McKay, and Keaveney. So from here, we can either proceed with an election if all members wish to have their name stand, or if there's anyone that's not necessarily interested in sitting on the committee, then they can ask to have their names removed. But those are the councillors that have expressed interest to date.
Okay, thank you. So with that, then I'll put it out then if there's any change to that list. We've got a question from Councillor Dobreen.
Thank you. Tara, could you repeat the 7 members that have indicated their interest?
Councillors Body, Dickert, Dobreen, Hutchinson, Keaveney, McKay, and Pringle.
Okay. Any other comments? We'll look to Councillor Bourdignon online.
Thank you, Madam Warden, through you. Similar to other committees, is there any desire to change the TNR, the terms of reference, in relation to a 7-member panel? It's still an odd number because of the interest. It's joint services, so I don't see harm in that. But I just digressed my question to the clerk through the warden.
Thank you, and through you, Madam Warden. Staff, I don't believe would have any concerns with adding 2 additional members to the committee. It would just require incorporating into the motion that the terms of reference be amended to add 2 additional members to reflect all the interested members.
Okay, thank you. We'll go to Councillor Eccles.
So I believe we set a precedent a few meetings ago that any committees that we had of committee of council required that there be a representative from all of the 9 municipalities. So I'm going to suggest, if we're going to continue to follow with that we better move it to 9. Because it influences the decisions of this is certainly going to influence every municipality. So in following the precedent that was set, that 5 individuals certainly couldn't represent, 7 certainly couldn't represent, we better have a representative from all of them. So I would put a motion forward that we change the terms of reference and it be 9, a representative from every of the 9 municipalities of Grey County.
Okay, is that a hand to second? Okay, so I'm just gonna, if you'll just allow me a moment. Thank you, Councillor Eccles, for moving. If you'll just allow me a moment just to look procedurally to the clerk first before I call for a seconder. Madam Clerk?
Thank you. And we don't currently have a motion on the floor. I would suggest that this is pertinent to the discussion and is in order. If there was a question about that, I just put my opinion on there, out there on that. And that we, it would be in order if council wishes to go that direction. I would just note, and I think Councillor Eccles, you just to confirm, the previous committees increases in membership were written into the terms of reference specifically for that committee. There was no decision on making all of our committees have representation from each municipality, but I understand your perspective on perhaps setting a precedent with those two that were done previously. So I just wanted to note that for clarity.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. So I'll put out a call. Is there a seconder for Councillor Eccles' motion? Okay, I've got it seconded by Councillor Dickert. So it's now on the floor for discussion to expand the membership to 9. Specifically, Councillor Eccles had named that it would come from each of the municipalities. So it's on the floor for discussion. We'll begin with Councillor Nielsen and then we'll go across the floor.
Thank you very much, Warden Matrosoff. And just in terms of the motion that's been presented, like the clerk said, I don't disagree with the merit of what Councillor Eccles is bringing forward, and I understand why you're bringing forward the motion. What I would challenge is that in this circumstance, the premise of this committee is to review different municipal services that can exist. There's no direction from this committee to try to implement. There's no direction from this committee to try to suggest what services. This is an exploratory mission. I don't believe it needs 9 members of this county to be a part of it. The information they're going to bring back will then be presented to all of County Council. They'll have the opportunity to speak to the lower tier municipalities, the staff people of those lower tiers to gain perspective as to what could happen. Because this is more of that exploratory information, the challenge of trying to get 9 members' schedules on board, the challenge of trying to find meeting times, I believe it would be more efficient and effective to have the 5 members. And so that's just my comments on your motion.
Okay, thank you. And we're going to go to Councillor Gregg next, but Madam Deputy Clerk, could I just ask that the motion get read? I can't see it on a screen anywhere, just so that we're all clear on what we're discussing. And while that's being organized, we'll go to the next speaker, which is Councillor Gregg.
Thank you. And I'll largely echo those comments of my colleague, Councillor Nielsen. Had we had just 5 names come forward, we wouldn't have a subsequent motion. We wouldn't be having this discussion. I think if there was going to be consideration of this motion, the time to consider it was when we had the terms of reference brought forward a couple meetings ago. I will be voting against it. Let's have an election. Nobody's feelings are hurt. If you're chosen, great. If you're not chosen, it's not the end of the world. The cost of governance in the last couple of years here is we have ballooned committee after committee after committee unnecessarily. And at the end of the day, you have to ask yourself, are you better off for it? And a bigger committee is not necessarily a better committee. So I will hold true to the 5 and hopefully we'll have a vote.
Okay, thank you. And we'll go over to Councillor Dobreen.
Ditto. I echo my colleagues' comments. I did put my name forward in the hope that we would have representation from all quadrants of our county. I see that there are other representatives from the South Grey area, and I am not in support of a 50% committee, as Councillor Nielsen suggested, this is exploration. If there was an opportunity for joint municipal services, that would be explored, and we might strike another committee to do a deep dive into that particular item. I withdraw my name to make it easier. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And before I go to further comments, I can see now that it is, what's written is the moved and seconded motion is that the terms of reference be amended to reflect a membership of 9 with membership from each municipality. So that's what we're discussing. Thank you. Other comments? We'll go to Councillor Carleton.
Thank you, Warden Mattress. I support the idea that we brought the terms of reference forward earlier with 5. I would question if it's set in stone that those same 5 members stay on. So if something came up that involved 2 municipalities that were not represented, can we change the membership of the committee to facilitate dealing with what's in front of them at that time?
Okay, so I'll look to Madam Clerk. So would there be a possibility for a resignation and an admission of a new member?
Thank you. And through you, Madam Warden, yes, at any time, it would be within council's purview to change the structure of the committee. So it's kind of fluid in that regard and is flexible.
Okay, I'll look to the room to see if there's further discussion on this motion. Okay, I'm not seeing any further hands in terms of the motion presented by Councillor Eccles and seconded by Councillor Dickert. So I'll call the question on that. All those in favor? Okay, I am seeing that this motion is defeated. Okay. So with that, we'll look back to the recommended motion. We do have Madam Clerk now, we've got, because we've heard from Councillor Dobreen that she wishes to remove her name. So we now see it as we've got 6 names for 5 positions, correct? Okay. So we will need a motion on the floor. I read it out, but we didn't have the names until then. And we better do an election first, because otherwise we can't name the individuals until we know who those individuals are. Okay. So, oh, yes, Deputy Warden Mill. Oh, okay, yes. So that move the motion. Madam Clerk, do you want a motion that we have hold an election, or? She says we don't need a motion to hold the election. So hold your thought. We'll get to
and go through each name individually, and members can vote up to a maximum of 5. So the councillors interested are councillors Body, Dickert, Hutchinson, Keaveney, McKay, and Pringle. So for votes for Councillor Body, please raise your hand. Okay. For Councillor Dickert. Councillor Hutchinson. Okay, that's, and Councillor Keaveney. And Councillor McKay. And Councillor Pringle. Okay, I'll beg your indulgence momentarily while I go through words.
we're just going to give the clerk a moment. Okay, Madam Clerk?
So the results of the election are Councilors Body, Dickert, Keaveney, McKay, Pringle. So the next step from here would be a motion to appoint those members to the committee and receive the report.
I was going to say that this is the given all the elections that we go through in our lives, this has been a lovely and cordial election. So, okay, so the clerk has confirmed the 5 names that can be entered in. And then I had heard, then I'll just confirm, Deputy Warden, you are moving that? Okay, so it's moved and it's seconded by Councillor Nielsen. Any discussion? Yes, Councillor DeBreen.
My apologies. Could we see the names on the screen, please?
Okay, sorry, we've got several screens. I thought that was on the screen behind us. So, and I'll read. Oh, okay, all right. So the following members be appointed to the committee, and they are Councillor Body, Dickert, Keaveney, McKay, and Pringle. Okay, any further discussion? Yes, Councillor Mackey.
Could we have a recount, Madam Warden?
Okay, I'm hearing that that was just a suggestion. Okay, and not seeing any further hands up. Okay, I think we can call that vote then. All those in favor? Okay, that was carried. Thank you very much, everyone, and thank you for all those who put their names forward, willing to serve on this committee. And we appreciate everybody's input on the various different roles that we all play. So with that then, Madam Clerk, then should we perhaps, are you recommending we do a break or? Okay, I think we need a break until we're at perfect timing. If we can do a 10-minute break and come back at 11:30, please. Thank you. Okay, County Council, if I can encourage you to return to your seats. Okay, so Madam Clerk, we've got our quorum present as everybody's gathering back into the chamber, and we are now going to move on to item 7D. And let me see, 7D and 7E. So I believe that's both CAO Schertzer and okay. So with that then, shall I look for a mover for the first portion, CAO, or do you want to speak to it first and then look at the two together? For just Bill 5.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's just begin with the recommendation that the information regarding Bill 5 from the Legislative Assembly of Ontario be received for information. May I ask for a mover and a seconder? Moved by Councillor DeBreen, seconded by Councillor Kepke. So it's now on the floor for discussion, and I'll look to CAO Schertzer.
Great, thank you, Warden Matrosovs. So there's two bills that you'll see on the agenda today, and these have been introduced recently by the province. One being Bill 5, which is called Protect Ontario by Unleashing Our Economy Act, and then Bill 17, as you'll see, which will be subsequent to this current one, to Protect Ontario by Building Faster and Smarter Act. Given the tight deadlines for comments, staff were unable to prepare staff reports regarding these two proposed bills. However, we wanted to add these two bills to the agenda to provide some highlights to council on what is being proposed. So with that, I'll turn over to Scott to provide an overview of the two bills.
Great. Thank you, CAO Schertzer, and through you, Madam Warden. I am just going to share my screen one more time here. And just because I'm insecure, I'll ask for someone's indulgence to let me know they can see that screen up there now.
We can. Thank you very much.
Excellent. Thank you very much. So as the CIO mentioned, we are dealing with two bills today. We'll deal with Bill 5 first. And as he noted, Bill 5 was introduced on April 17th, 2025 to the legislature. The comments on Bill 5 were unfortunately due by this past Saturday, May 17th. So as Randy noted, we didn't get the chance to comment on it. And Bill 5, like a lot of other pieces of provincial legislation we've seen, is proposing to amend a number of pieces of legislation and also create a new piece of legislation called the Special Economic Zones Act. And I will say in both prepping this summary for Bill 5 and prepping the summary for Bill 17, this really was a team effort, and there were certainly many county staff that contributed here, but also your own municipal staff. I was getting emails from individual councillors saying, hey, did you see this presentation? This is really useful links. A few law firms had provided summaries of the documents, so we've tried to pull together as much as we can in a relatively short time frame, but I would like to thank everybody that contributed to this summary, because it really is a big job going through a large piece of legislation such as this. So with respect to that, we'll just provide some brief highlights. So as I said, Bill 5 would create a new act called Special Economic Zones. So this is yet another planning acronym that we're going to have to learn. We'll call them SEZs. And Special Economic Zones would be areas that could be designated by the province, geographic areas, wherein trusted proponents or designated projects could be exempt from both provincial legislation and municipal bylaws if they were to develop in those zones. A lot of these details, including definitions for trusted proponents and designated projects, would come through future regulations. The province has noted these regulations would be developed by September 2025, but unfortunately, we don't know all the details of that yet. Furthermore, we don't know the details, including the criteria that would go into what constitutes a special economic zone, or how the province would designate such. There's been some speculation in the planning and legal fields as to where that could be. And you know, quite frankly, Grey County might not be the top on the list to have some special economic zones, but we thought it was important to profile this to committee of the whole nonetheless. One of the other things that we'd certainly love to see detail on either prior to the legislation being passed or through those regulations is how municipalities would be consulted on approvals of a special economic zone or development within a special economic zone, particularly when municipal bylaws might not apply, knowing that most development in Ontario is supported by municipal infrastructure, whether that be at the member municipal level or the county level. It will be important for municipalities to be key parties at the table here. Furthermore, the relationship between special economic zones and minister zoning orders is not 100% clear at this time. One of the other changes being proposed through Bill 5 is to repeal the Endangered Species Act and replace it with a new Species Conservation Act. There'd be a number of changes that would go into this new Species Conservation Act, including reducing the definition of habitat for endangered or threatened species, such that it does not include all aspects of a species' life cycle or all the lands they need for survival in that regard. The minister would also be given the ability to both add or remove species from the list, and there would still be the committee that assesses the species, but it would be up to the minister as to whether or not species are added or removed from the list. They'd be changing the framework for approving authorizations within endangered species or threatened species habitat, and it would largely become more proponent-driven and self-registration in that regard rather than the current system. They're proposing to remove the term harass from the provisions prohibiting harm to such endangered species, and then there's also more of an administrative change to remove migratory birds and aquatic species that are already protected under the Federal Species at Risk Act. There's further changes that would help recognize Indigenous traditional knowledge as part of the criteria in identifying and evaluating such species. I will say, and for those that have been following the media coverage on this piece of legislation, the changes to the former, or what might be the former Endangered Species Act and replaced by the Special Species Conservation Act, seem to be some of those ones that have generated the most public discussion, and there's certainly some concern with respect to the changes and potentially the weakening of protections for endangered and threatened species in that regard. There's also a number of changes being proposed to the Ontario Heritage Act. It would give the province the ability in some cases to waive the requirement for an archaeological assessment as part of certain projects in that regard. Again, there'll be a criteria established through a future regulation, but we don't know what those criteria would be just yet. That would also give the minister the ability to direct properties that do need an archaeological assessment, whether that be on land or on lands that are underwater. And it would provide the minister the ability to direct where artifacts or archaeological collections are to be deposited, whether that be with public institutions or Indigenous communities. And so, as I said, there's a number of other changes being proposed to various pieces of legislation. There's some targeted changes with respect to a landfill in Southern Ontario and environmental assessment requirements. There's some changes with respect to Ontario Place, but staff have tried to highlight just those that are perhaps most pertinent to Grey County in that regard. And so with that, I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And if I could bear your indulgence, Madam Warden, I'd just like to turn it over to either the CAO or Deputy CAO just to see if they have any further questions or further comments before we open it up to questions from Committee of the Whole.
Okay, so I'm getting a shake of the head beside me that we're ready for questions. So thank you very much. And with that, then I'll put it out for, yes, we've got it moved and seconded on the floor. So I'll put it out to Committee of the Whole members for any questions or comments. And we are considering to receive it for information. So we'll go to Councillor Eccles, and I'm switching my microphone off, Councillor Eccles, to give you the opportunity to speak.
Not so much about you switching it off. It's cutting me off so that I get a little, more concerned about, Madam Warden. Thank you. Yeah, this bill, disturbs, on a personal basis, disturbs me even more than the Strong Mayors Act that come flying at us as well, too. Two terms in this that really concern me are trusted proponents. That will be determined somewhere down the line of whom, well, what's the definition of a trusted proponent? I've got in my own assumption what it is meaning, and But as they said, that'll be somewhere down the line and, you know, with whose consultation or designation. But the other one is, you know, it comes under the endangered species or the Ontario heritage part of it and whatnot. Provide the minister with ability to direct that a property be inspected to assess whether artifacts, archaeological sites. That's an interesting way of saying that, because for most of the planning that we have in Ontario right at the present moment, you must, or you shall, looking at Mr. CEO and his planning background, you shall do an archaeological site or an art, you know, for artifacts and whatnot. But this one, the way that's written, the minister will decide. That's what I'm reading and how it will be done, that the property be inspected. So I think it's taken it right out of there, which is, you know, and the minister will provide where the artifacts, if anything, is found. Well, that's pretty redundant because we're not even doing it. You know, I'm not going to order anybody to do that. My trusted proponents to do any of these archaeological studies. I'm very critical of red tape for sure, but man, this is worse in my mind. This is worse than throwing the baby out with bathwater. You can cut me off now. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Eccles. And did I see Councillor DeBreen?
Thank you. And I too have concern with some of the recommendations in how it affects our duty to consult. If the minister, to Councillor Eccles, if the minister can decide what, if anything, is conducted, I thought our duty to consult was to circulate applications and proposals to our Indigenous parties and, you know, allow them to decide what archaeological studies are required or where those artifacts would remain if found. Yeah, I have a lot of concerns about Bill 5 as Mr. Taylor has his hand up. So as many people that I've spoken to have as well. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll go to Director Taylor.
Great. Thank you, Madam Warden, through you and back to Councillor Eccles and Councillor DeBreen. Certainly some of the archaeological changes are generating a significant amount of concern. And I should have mentioned that in preparing this quick summary, staff didn't have the ability to chat with some of the Indigenous communities that have traditional territory within Grey County. Our understanding is staff from Bruce County did have the ability to chat with Saugeen Ojibwe Nation staff. And certainly I've seen some online summaries to suggest that a number of First Nations and Métis communities are very concerned about Bill 5 in this regard. I will say more directly to Councillor Eccles' comments, we're also currently the county's working on our archaeological management plan. We've had the benefit of receiving some comments from our archaeologists that's preparing that plan for us with their summary and their potential concerns with Bill 5 in that regard. As it would stand today, Bill 5 wouldn't necessarily change the provincial planning statement or the county official plan in that regard. So archaeological studies would still be required unless explicitly, I guess, waived by the province in that regard.
Okay, thank you. I'll just look around the room if there are any questions or comments. Councillor Gray?
The only thing I would note here, this is extremely challenging, I guess, to walk the correct line. I recalled reading an article last year, and I think it was a Baden or a Tavistock area farmer. It got quite a bit of media attention. As the headline shows, he has to pay $400,000 in archaeological fees to build a home on his field. Said he was told by the Ontario government that until the dig is complete, he could face fines or even jail time for stepping out onto his field. There are components to legislation perhaps in place now that on face value such as that look extreme and potentially like a egregious government overreach. And even if it is the right thing to do, potentially then what the government has to do is if it's that important, the government supports people and the government pays the cost. But to burden property owners or homeowners with some of the, or landowners with costs like that is, it does merit consideration in terms of the whole conversation we're having here, because we want to protect everything we can. At the same time, you see headlines like that and you're like, oh boy, what kind of a re-examination do we need to do? And I'm glad we're undertaking the project at the county level. But that's part of, you know, a headline like that should be something that stays with us and in trying to find that correct balance as a municipality in determining what the best plan and management plan is that we come up with down the road.
Thank you. Looking around the room, not seeing any, oh, there we go, Councillor Keaveney.
Thank you, Warden Matrosovs, and Bill 5 is very, very concerning for us in particular. And I think about our official plans, both at the county and our own municipal level, that certainly reflect a priority of protecting our environment. And I'm wondering about any implications Bill 5 would have on our official plans, because we have our trusted proponent in TC Energy ready to start their impact assessments. And I'm very concerned about what the implications of this are in that process going forward. So my question is in relation to our official plans and whether this has any impact on the language within those that needs to be reconsidered.
Okay, I'll look to Director Taylor.
Yeah, through you, Madam Warden. Thank you for your question, Councillor Keaveney. So Bill 5 in and of itself has the potential to change provincial legislation. At this stage, it's not necessarily changing the provincial planning statement or county or municipal official plans in that regard. So certainly, you know, the county official plan slots in under provincial legislation like the Planning Act or like the Endangered Species Act. So if there was changes to provincial legislation, then certainly our county plan would recognize those changes. But at this stage, it wouldn't necessarily have an immediate impact in terms of, you know, the types of environmental studies we would see or the types of archaeological studies we'd see unless the province established one of those special economic zones and you know, waived municipal requirements in that regard. Certainly if Bill 5 passed, the province could choose to update further documents, including the provincial planning statement or look at municipal official plan updates. But that's not part of the current suite of legislation at this stage.
Okay, thank you. And we'll go to Councillor Kentner.
Thank you, and through you, Warden Matrosovs. I think you know, it's just something we've seen over and over again. It's the proverbial pendulum always swinging too far, and we're in a time when it's important that we curb some of the excesses of regulation. But the Ford government seems to always have an excessive response, and this one is pretty chilling. So I think that's just, I don't know how we cope with it, but we have to.
Okay, thank you. And I do not see any further, oh, Councillor Eccles, second pass.
Yes, thank you. You know, from doing some reading and whatnot and information coming forward, you know, critical minerals and energy sector, this seemed to be more directed to Northern Ontario and the development of the Ring of Fire when we start talking about critical minerals. But again, there's no definition that I found in this bill of what a critical mineral is. And Grey County sitting on 60% of what could be considered a critical mineral in the economic boom of Ontario. It's our aggregate resource. And if anybody has gone through what a gravel pit application or an aggregate extraction, what is required in that, and to your point, Mr. Kentner, Councillor Kentner, are we swinging way over here that gravel pits will be opened up immensely as the continuant building. But maybe it won't need to be that, because as we dig under the 401 to tunnel that, there'll be aggregate will probably be coming north. They'll have to find some place to get rid of it. So maybe my concern is not merited in that fashion, but I think this is going to have a big effect on the environment, on the economic development of Grey County going forward.
Thank you, Councillor Eccles. I'll go to Director Taylor, who's raised his hand.
Thank you, Madam Warden, through you to Councillor Eccles. I would just say to Councillor Eccles' comments, at this stage, Bill 5 isn't proposing to change the Aggregate Resources Act, which is where we see the pits and quarries that are licensed in Grey County licensed under. They are, however, proposing to change the Mining Act in that regard. So certainly there could be further changes in the future to the Aggregate Resources Act, or how that Aggregate Resources Act would interact with a special economic zone. I'm not certain, but I did just want to make it clear that at this stage, the Aggregate Resources Act isn't proposed to be amended.
Okay, thank you. And I no longer see any hands. All right, so we've got this first motion on the floor to receive for information. All those in favor? And that motion is carried. Thank you. The next one that we have is item 7E. It's recommended that the correspondence regarding Bill 17, Protect Ontario by Building Faster and Smart Act 2025 be received, and that staff provide comments on the proposed legislation prior to the June 11th, 2025 deadline. May I ask for a mover? Moved by the Deputy Warden and seconded by Councillor Carleton. It's now on the floor for discussion. So shall I return to this CEO Schertzer or directly to Director Taylor?
Great. Thanks again, Madam Warden. I will share my screen one last time here.
We can see it.
Okay, great. Thanks so much. So Bill 17 is hot off the presses, if you will. It was introduced on May the 12th, 2025. As the CAO mentioned with his preface and comments, it is a tight turnaround in terms of the commenting deadline. Staff were not able to prepare a report for this meeting, and the consultation ends on the majority of the pieces of legislative changes on June 11th, so the day before our next committee of the whole meeting. As such, through the motion, what we're looking to do is to submit some staff comments, but we'll certainly give you a summary here today and take down any comments that council might have. I should further note, in the spirit of collaboration, we are pulling together a meeting of all the municipal planners tomorrow afternoon to get municipal planning thoughts on Bill 17, and certainly we'll be liaising with a number of other departments, definitely in the county as well, because it goes far beyond just planning changes in that regard. So you can see how the list on the screen is in terms of the number of acts that it amends. Today we're going to be focusing largely on the Development Charges Act and the Planning Act, but there are certainly another number of other pieces of legislation in that regard. With respect to the Development Charges Act, Bill 17 is proposing to make it such that long-term care homes are no longer subject to development charges. They're proposing to offer greater flexibility in that the payment of a development charge could be paid, and this is for owned housing, could be paid either at the time that the building permit is taken out, which is generally the standard rate now, or it could be deferred until occupancy. And while on paper that definitely provides some greater flexibility to those that would be paying development charges, staff would note it could be administratively burdensome on municipalities that are collecting those development charges and or tracking when they're due in that regard. There's a number of changes proposed through Bill 17 that would allow the province greater regulation-making authority. In this case, there would be authority to better define a local service. There would be regulation-making authority to merge service categories for the purposes of receiving development charges credits. So this is really getting down into the weeds of development charges, but essentially developers could receive a broader range of development charges credits, perhaps where they're front-ending certain improvements in that regard. It would also allow municipalities a simplified process to updating their development charges bylaws in certain circumstances, particularly if a municipality was looking to reduce its development charges. And it's further making changes, proposed changes to the current freeze period to ensure that the developer pays the lower of the development charges rate. So they would either pay the development charge that was in effect at the date of when the freeze period ended and they had to pay it, or if at that time the rate is lower, then they would pay the lower of the two. Sorry about that. It's a bit confusing. I will say in this regard, we also had the ability to talk to Hempson, who is the firm that has prepared the county's last couple development charges bylaws and really one of the leaders in the province in that regard. And similar to county staff's thoughts, some of these changes might be positive. There's some that sort of we'll need to see further detail on in terms of those regulation making authorities, and some where the potential positive or negative impacts might be unknown at this stage. That said, maybe beyond the occupancy tracking, staff don't have major concerns at a preliminary level, but I will say we need to chat further with our finance folks and with municipalities to fully understand the realm of the changes in this regard. There are a number of proposed changes to the Planning Act and associated regulations. One of those would be that the province would have further ability to limit what gets submitted with a complete application for a Planning Act application. The province is proposing to remove certain studies such as wind, sun and shadow, urban design, or lighting studies from the complete application requirements. They're also making it clear that any study that a municipality asks for has to be clearly laid out in its official plan in that regard. They are providing potentially greater certainty that reports by specified professionals or certified professionals, should be accepted by municipalities. So certainly, staff see sort of both sides of the coin on this one. We were lucky enough to deal with a number of very skilled and trusted consultants in our area, but certainly even looking at our own transportation engineers, when they review a proponent's transportation impact study, they might have a different professional opinion than the author that's prepared it on behalf of that proponent. There's some new requirements that would allow for minor variances, if you like, as of right, where they're varying a proposal within 10% of the existing requirements. It would give the Ministry of the Municipal Affairs and Housing the ability to impose conditions on a minister's zoning order, and then there'd be potentially proposed streamlining of approvals for new publicly funded kindergarten to grade 12 schools, in that portables, newly added portables to a site would be exempted from site plan control requirements. With respect to some of the other changes, the ministry would consult on changes to streamlining county and municipal official plans in that regard, to look at simplified and standardized official plan designations. Certainly, there's always room for us all to improve, and on paper, that could be beneficial. That said, staff would just hope that it's sort of not a one size fits all for the entire province, because certainly the development that we see in Grey County is very different than the development you might see in Toronto or Ottawa in that regard. There's some further changes being considered with respect to the Ministry of Finance population projections, and there might be a change which would say municipalities in updating their official plans would use the higher of either the Ministry of Finance numbers or current municipal population projections if they're higher than the ministry's numbers in that regard. This is something that could impact certain municipalities more than others, but certainly as the county is preparing our update to the growth management study, it's something we're trying to stay keenly in tune with in that regard. And then finally, there's some proposed changes that would allow the minister to exempt provincial decisions from provincial policy on a case-by-case basis where the ministry is the approval authority. So in Grey County, just as an example, if Grey were to pass a new official plan or a 5 or 10 year review of our county official plan, those types of decisions would be approved by the ministry in that regard. This is another one where we don't have the details yet on what would qualify for such an exemption, whereby the minister is exempting that approval from provincial policy in that regard, but they've noted that a further framework would be developed and there would be transparency in that framework. With respect to some of the other changes, they are proposing looking at some further standardization of municipal data tracking as it pertains to planning, building code, and permit applications, and hopefully to use emerging technology to help improve and streamline those processes. They've noted potentially the use of artificial intelligence technology there. There's some further changes proposed to the building and fire codes to look at potentially more flexibility for permitting 4-story townhouse units. They're consulting, and this is in line with some recent information we've seen from AMO and other organizations on greater flexibility for communal services as it might pertain to private communal water or sewage services in that regard, including modular off-grid water treatment facilities. There's potentially some further changes with respect to exploring a public utility model for water and wastewater infrastructure, including changes to the existing Municipal Services Corporation model, which could include both governance and financial changes. They're looking at reviewing and streamlining some of the Ministry of Transportation's processes in that regard. The Ministry of Transportation would also be consulting on potentially standardizing road construction standards across Ontario's 444 municipalities. I apologize, I've not talked to Pat or his transportation group on this one just yet, but certainly some of what we've heard from other municipalities is that there might be room for some standardization, but certainly a one-size-fits-all might not work for road construction across the province. And so with that, as the warden read out at the beginning, we are looking for this information to be received, and then direction that staff would incorporate any of council's comments here today alongside our own staff comments into future comments ahead of that June 11th deadline. And so with that, I will stop sharing my screen and just through you, Madam Warden, turn it back over to either the CAO or deputy if they have any further comments to add on this.
Okay, CAO.
Thank you, Warden, and thank you, Scott. Scott's obviously provided a great overview of what's in the proposed bill. As noted, it's hot off the press, so to speak. We're just starting to dig into some of those details. We wanted to bring that to council today to obviously, if you have any initial thoughts or comments, we'll incorporate those into our staff comments, but we'll also have some further discussions with each of your local municipal staff to make sure that we're trying to capture as many of the comments as we can to provide that to the province before the deadline. So appreciate Scott providing that overview.
Thank you. Indeed, the timing is very tight when one considers all the various different council cycles. So I think all of our lower tiers are going to be trying to catch up on this very quick digest of a lot of material. So thank you very much, Director Taylor. It's been very helpful the way that you've been able to at least give us some guiding thoughts on this. And so this is the best thing that we can do, is to put it out now to see if there are additional comments that come from County Council that could be incorporated into the staff comments. So with that, we'll begin with Deputy Warden Milne.
Thank you, Madam Warden. It just strikes a person that they're almost desperate to meet this target of more houses, and they'll do anything or remove any barrier, no matter the cost, to the economy, to the environment, to governance, just to get it done. One can imagine an office in Queen's Park labeled office that seeks to see stuff stick to the wall, almost. So there are, as Councillor Gregg pointed out, there are some tweaks that could be helpful, but the manner and the volume of stuff they push out the door to change stuff, why don't they just do it themselves? Just go around the municipalities, leave us alone, and just do it themselves. I don't know why they think we're the problem. We're not the problem. Municipalities are not the problem, and yet they persist to think that we are the problem. There are thousands and thousands of new houses approved across the province that the builders are not building. And we can't change that. If the builder doesn't want to put a shovel in the ground, we can't change that, no matter how many turtles we kill. So it's really frustrating to see this stuff happen. But I do commend Scott for his report. Very, very helpful. And indeed all of staff for their diligence on this. Thank you.
Thank you. Other comments? We'll go to Councillor Nielsen.
Thank you very much, Warden Matrosoff. Just a question regarding their changes to DC rate and the not the rate, the deferral and stuff. Wondering if there's clarity on if the DCs are deferred and the cost of DCs change, whether up or down, does the price at the time of the building permit pulled gets charged or the new price change. I understand the freeze period is a little different in terms of when we implement a new development charge assessment. But I'm just wondering if there's clarity onto how that would work out.
Director Taylor?
Yeah, through you, Madam Warden. Thanks for your question, Councilor Nielsen. It's certainly something we want to look into. I'm hesitant to give you a definitive answer here. We do want to look into exactly what rate it is and if a charge is deferred in that regard, whether or not the municipality would have the ability to charge interest. Certainly with respect to the freeze period, I believe they've made it clear that you would pay the lower of either the rate it was frozen at or the current rate. But with respect to those deferrals, we just want to dig in further. And I certainly don't want to speak for Mary Lou or any of her team or the team at the municipalities in that regard. So if we could, I think I'd like to get back to you on that unless there's any further information from Mary Lou or Randy or now.
We have a follow-up?
Just another comment regarding the changes, and I guess our opportunity here is to kind of give Scott anything we think we need clarity on in the future. So that's one for me. And two is the changing the need to use of the Ministry of Finance population numbers. The irony to me is that I think Grey County looked at those numbers and said, we thought they were a little low. And then they're saying, well, you could use either or. And so then I kind of sit here and say, well, what's the point of putting out and saying you have to use or could use the Ministry of Finance? We have already done the work. We're currently doing our new growth assessment as we received a report recently. And we're doing this work again. And so I think this is an opportunity where we could just kind of say to the province, maybe you just leave this one in our hands and let us do the growth projections as to where and how the growth we think is going to happen within Grey County.
Thank you. Other comments? Okay, we'll go to Councillor Mackey.
Thank you, Madam Warden, and thanks, Scott, for the additional information. Do you have any idea, and I forget the exact terminology, but off the grid mobile treatment, what that would look like or what that entails? I'm not really familiar with what you're talking about there. I know is it, I guess, yeah, that's my question. What is that? Thank you.
Director Taylor?
Through you, Madam Warden, thank you for your question, Councillor Mackey. I don't know entirely what that entails. I know through discussions at Western Ontario Wardens and with AMO, there's an interest in exploring further communal servicing technologies across the province. I don't specifically know what off-grid is. It's something we'd like to dig further into and maybe chat with municipal operations staff on. I think particularly given the cost of new and expanded municipal wastewater and water treatment systems, the province is interested in exploring whether or not there's smaller scale options that could be delivered at the communal level that might help unlock certain lands which aren't currently serviced for development in that regard. One of the key considerations, and this is really getting into the minutia of provincial policy and regulations in that regard, is currently where somebody is proposing a communal system, often one of the major barriers to those systems is the need to enter into a responsibility agreement with the host municipality. So that agreement would essentially say, if this system were to fail or if this developer were to abandon the system, the municipality would be on the hook, so to speak, for assuming that system. And what that means in practicality is, at least many municipalities I've dealt with have said, well, listen, we're not willing to sign that responsibility agreement unless you build it to a municipal standard, but building it to a municipal standard is far too costly. So it just kind of creates this vicious cycle of lands remaining unserviced because of the cost and responsibilities. So certainly through groups like Western Ontario Wardens and AMO and these new provincial changes, we'd like to dig further into sort of what technologies are out there and then what the corresponding impact, both positive and negative, would be on municipalities. I apologize, that's a very long-winded answer, but yeah.
Okay, thank you. And we'll go to Councillor Keaveney.
Thank you, Warden Matrosovs. And I just wanted to add to the Deputy Warden's comments. In my mind, the holdups really are MTO and Ontario Hydro. I mean, we understand, all of us, the need for infrastructure, but there's nothing in Bill 5 or Bill 17 that would make any difference to those two factions that really do hold up development.
Thank you. And any other comments? Councillor Ray.
I guess my question, this is a question really to enlighten me from the county's perspective. What do we ask for when the first bullet point is provide authority limit municipal complete application studies, removing wind, sun, shadow, urban design? I'm aware of our asks or requests at the lower tier municipality, but I'm not wanting to wear that opinion right now. So I'm wondering, what do we ask at this level in terms of those studies? Because I'm of the opinion there's room for improvement at the lower tier, but where are we at Grey County?
Director Taylor?
Through you, Madam Warden. Thank you for your question, Councillor Gregg. The answer is that it really depends on the type of application coming forward. So certainly if we're looking at a new residential plan of subdivision versus a gravel pit, there's different study requirements. That said, if we're looking at plans of subdivision at the county level, we're not asking for wind studies. We're not asking for sun and shadow studies. We don't particularly ask for urban design studies in that regard. Those aren't firm requirements of the county official plan. The only time I think we've ever seen a wind study, for example, would have been years ago when we were looking at the siting of large-scale industrial wind turbines in that regard. So strictly speaking, those specific studies that they've listed in the proposed regulation changes wouldn't appear to impact the county very greatly. If the province is going to add to that list, it could. Certainly there are some municipalities in Grey County that have been looking at further exploring urban design guidelines. So that might be something that would impact some of our member municipalities. But in terms of those that are listed, it wouldn't directly impact what we ask for at the county. Even as I said, on other applications like gravel pits, again, we're not asking for wind or sun shadow or any of the studies that they've listed there. Thank you.
Follow-up?
Okay, thank you for that response. And a little more information on bullet point 4. Give the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing the authority to impose conditions on a use permitted by a minister's zoning order. MZOs have been in place now for quite a few years. In the professional realm, are there items that have been identified where MZOs have been issued? And this is coming from, because when you read that, the authority to impose conditions, so a new application on something that's been existing for a few years, but there's no background to MZOs gave a lot of freedom. Is the province seeing something that they still wanted more freedom beyond the initial MZO granting?
Okay, we're going to look to the CAO for that one.
I'll start and then I'll turn over to Scott if he has anything further to add there. So I think in terms of what we've seen in terms of minister's zoning orders, they vary in terms of their complexity. Essentially what they do is they replace what's on anything within municipal zoning bylaws and put in place that whatever's going to be permitted on that particular site or property. So in terms of the details as it relates to this, I haven't dug into those in full detail, but I think looking at what typically is in terms of what conditions are imposed as a part of those zoning. Right now, municipalities don't have the ability to put conditions on zoning bylaws. So I don't know if this is something that they would like to see as to the ability for the minister to add some conditions as it relates to MZOs. In terms of specific developments, I'm assuming it's something that's popped up where they require some sort of conditions to be added just to provide further direction and details. But I'll turn over to Scott. Maybe he has some further information there.
Yeah, thank you, Randy, and through you, Madam Warden. Yeah, we're not entirely sure at this stage. One of the questions that we'd like to put forward to the province is whether or not these changes would be on a go-forward basis, so for any new MZOs being proposed, or whether the province would be retroactively applying conditions to some of those existing MZOs that are in place. Certainly, there's been some pushback at the provincial level with respect to some of the current MZOs where, you know, there was a rush to approve a development in the province and then the developer is now not building. So there's been some speculation that there might be further conditions on, you know, timing or sort of a use it or lose it, if you will. There's also been some concerns at the provincial level with respect to Indigenous consultation. So perhaps there could be more conditions imposed there, but I am purely speculating here. So this is something that we'd certainly like more information on at the provincial level.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? Okay, not seeing any further comments then, and we did have the motion moved and seconded, so we've had a good fulsome discussion that will help populate what you are able to compose, Director Taylor, and add them to the comments that your staff continues to come up with as you dig deeper into it with a little bit more time between now and June 11th. Okay, so with that then, I'll call the vote. All those in favor? And that motion is carried. Okay, thank you. So at this point in time, we are past 12:15. We are going to break for lunch and then, Madam Clerk, if we come back at 1 o'clock, is that suitable? Okay, so at 1 o'clock, we'll have to continue. We have both a closed session matter and one more open session matter. So we will need to take the time to do that after 1 o'clock. Thank you very much. Okay, thank you very much, everyone. We have regathered. Thank you very much, everyone. We have taken our break and we have come back to continue with the items on the list. The next one is item 8, which is a closed session matter. So it's recommended that the committee of the whole does now go into closed session pursuant to section 239(2) of the Municipal Act 2001 as amended to discuss a potential land disposition. Number 1, C, a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality or local board. And number 2, item K, a position, plan, procedure, criteria, or instruction to be applied to any negotiations carried on or to be carried on by or on behalf of the municipality or local board. May I ask for a mover and a seconder? Okay, so I've got a move by Councillor Patterson and seconded by Councillor McKay. Any discussion about going into closed session? All those in favor?